Good morning, Pennsylvania SBDC and business advisors and team members. I'm Ernie Post, State Director. I want to welcome you to our launch of our annual Professional Development Conference. And we're honored to help us kick our conference off this year with Governor Wolf. And it's my pleasure to introduce him, and he'll have some welcoming remarks, and then we'll take a pause and have some questions that some of you had the chance to provide for the governor to answer. So before he was governor, Governor Wolf was the owner of the Wolf Organization, a distributor of lumber and other building products in the New York, Pennsylvania area. And Tom brought his family business and grew the company, and eventually more than quintupling the business in size. He did this with smart leadership and by treating his employees fairly, even sharing the company's profits with workers. And since he took office in 2015, the governor has fought for change in Harrisburg. On day one, his first action as governor was signing a gift ban prohibiting administration employees from accepting gifts from lobbyists and reforming legal contracting to end paid to play. And Tom also donates his entire salary to charity and refuses a state pension. Tom is working to grow our economy by making it easier for small businesses to start and expanding career and technical education opportunities. He is fighting to make sure wages keep up with the cost of living, focusing on skills training for kids who do not go to college, helping small businesses, and rebuilding Pennsylvania's infrastructure. And of course, Tom also has his PhD from MIT and has been very supportive of higher education as well. So it's my pleasure and to introduce and welcome Governor Tom Wolf. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Ernie. I appreciate that introduction. Really thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate that. I have always been an admirer and supporter of the small business development centers, as I have been of small businesses, having managed one point in my career a small True Value hardware store. So I appreciate what small businesses do, and I know that the challenges they face are tough. I also know that small businesses are leaders and real entrepreneurs. They really are focused on their communities, and after all, small businesses are the future of our economy. So thank you for all the hard work that you do to support this group, and thanks to the hard work that you do to help the entrepreneurs develop their new business ideas and to make business plans, navigate the myriad challenges of starting, running, or expanding a business, and especially challenges of going through something like we're going through right now with this pandemic. Our small business development centers are an essential resource for small businesses in Pennsylvania. Your work helps these small businesses flourish, and of course that helps everybody in Pennsylvania flourish. We all know, again, that the COVID-19 pandemic made your job and the job of small businesses even harder than it normally is. COVID has caused a lot of hardship for our businesses, large and small. But it's been particularly difficult for Pennsylvania's small businesses to weathering this storm is really tough for any business, but especially small businesses. Small businesses don't have the same resources that larger businesses have. They don't have the same reserves. And of course, that's where you come in, the centers. You were right there with these small businesses every step of the way during the pandemic to provide some of the resources that small businesses especially need in times like this. You help small business owners navigate changing operational needs, the need for especially different business plans. You help guide them to resources to help with recovery, a really important part of surviving the pandemic. In 2020 alone, you served more than 13,000 clients in different ways, and you helped support nearly 80,000 jobs. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for everything that you have done during the pandemic to help our small businesses navigate this crisis successfully. Throughout the pandemic, all of us have worked hard to provide tools and resources to help small businesses weather the challenges of this awful pandemic. Beginning in March, for example, the Commonwealth made low interest rate loans available for small businesses through the COVID-19 Working Capital Access Program. In April, we announced forbearance of loans administered by the Department of Community and Economic Development. In June, we announced that $225 million in grants would be made available to businesses through the COVID-19 Relief Statewide Small Business Assistance Program. This program put a priority on grants to Main Street and historically disadvantaged businesses in the Commonwealth. And in all, more than 10,000 businesses were approved for $192 million in grants. Those are grants. Half of these grants went to historically disadvantaged businesses, which have often struggled to access financial support and relief programs in the past due to systemic racism and inequality. Throughout the year, we also took action to help workers, including hazard pay grants for frontline workers. And we provided aid to targeted industries that were hit especially hard by the pandemic. And that includes providing grants to child care providers and waiving liquor license fees for restaurants and bars. I mean, we did a lot, but I know that more is necessary. And that's why in December, I initiated a transfer. We found $145 million in the Workers' Compensation Fund at the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, $145 million. And I made this money available to help businesses that are still struggling in the pandemic. And the General Assembly directed the money into the COVID-19 Hospitality Industry Recovery Program, or CHIRP. I supported it. It's really important. CHIRP provides grants to businesses whose operations and revenues were significantly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, with a focus on businesses in the hospitality industry. Through no fault of their own, businesses in this industry, the hospitality industry, have been especially hard hit by the pandemic, and they need and they deserve our help. This grant program is one more tool in our toolbox to help small businesses survive and reach recovery. And recovery is within our grasp as vaccine supply increases and more Americans are in fact, more and more Pennsylvanians are in fact getting vaccinated. As of yesterday, all Pennsylvanians are now eligible to be vaccinated. Getting everyone vaccinated is the key to our recovery. We all know that. And I encourage anyone who has questions about how to find a vaccine provider to visit the Department of Health's website at health.pa.gov. That's health.pa.gov to find out more. But vaccination alone won't do enough to foster a sustained and equitable and long-term economic recovery in Pennsylvania. We need a forward-thinking, innovative plan that supports businesses and workers now and into the future. And that's why my budget plan for this year includes Back to Work PA. Back to Work PA is a plan to get Pennsylvanians back on track after the pandemic by investing in businesses and the workers that really drive our economy. It focuses on developing a sustainable solution to support long-term economic recovery for both businesses and workers. Back to Work PA will assist workers and business owners most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, including Pennsylvania's small business community. We'll do this by using an extraction tax on natural gas. Something we have in Pennsylvania is the only major natural gas producing state without an extraction tax in the entire country. A modest tax would produce present value, an immediate amount of money, around $3 billion. And this would allow us to invest in a wide array of innovative programs to help bolster existing businesses, to improve workforce training and support, to reduce inequities that hold Pennsylvanians back, to attract businesses back to Pennsylvania, to reduce future supply chain disruptions and brain drain, and attract and retain Pennsylvania entrepreneurs, and help our communities expand their tax bases, create new jobs, and bring in more revenue for themselves. Back to Work PA will help workers by directing education and training resources to support talent development for high demand occupations, with a focus on high quality, family sustaining jobs that lead to careers and well-paying jobs. Back to Work PA will help businesses by increasing supports and incentives connecting businesses to needed resources like, again, the strong, talented workforce. And Back to Work PA will help communities by assisting in local recovery efforts and planning for how to better handle future economic disruptions like the one we're going through and almost through right now. Pennsylvania small business development centers provide many of these services to small businesses today, every day, including long-term planning, economic loss estimations, and business preparedness. And I want to make your job easier by increasing resources and supports for businesses, small businesses throughout the Commonwealth. With Back to Work PA, Pennsylvania can build a more diverse and robust economy than ever before. This conference is a great opportunity for people who want small businesses to succeed, and where people who want that can come together and exchange ideas and talk about the innovative ways we can all encourage small businesses to grow right here in Pennsylvania. So it's a privilege to be with you today, and I wish you all well as you begin your virtual conference. I hope that all of you take advantage of this opportunity to learn. I hope you take advantage of this opportunity to network. I'm sure that your collaborations here are going to benefit Pennsylvania's small business for many years to come, and that will benefit Pennsylvania, all Pennsylvanians, for many years to come. So thank you, and now Ernie, back to you.
Thank you, Governor, for those welcoming remarks, and we'll go right into some of our questioning here, but I wanted to just echo and share with the network how thankful we are for your leadership and support of not only the prep line item in maintaining that with a recommended increase in that budget line, but also for your support of all economic development programs and education that is so vital that we need funded appropriately, to overcome the negative impact of the pandemic. So our first question comes from one of our business advisors at the Penn State SBDC, and I think it ties into what you were talking about, your proposal for the Back to Work. John Peterson, question here from Penn State SBDC says, thank you for your efforts and leadership this tough year, Governor. While we are rebuilding the Commonwealth from 2020, I see and hear the need for employers to have a talent pool of people to hire through skilled labor, technical education, and internet expansion in our communities. What is your vision to retain young professionals in Pennsylvania while enhancing educational programs and technology needs for small businesses?
Yeah, well, John, all of the above. I mean, yeah, I think you point out really important. We need to make sure that our education at all levels, including post-secondary education, are relevant to the needs of a 21st century economy. And that's important. So we need to invest in that. And I think at all levels, again, career and technical education at basic level, and apprenticeship programs and other post-secondary education, and even looking at our university system. Places like Penn State are doing a phenomenal job of actually promoting students in areas that have practical applications in our economy. But you also point out we need to do more with broadband. We need to, I think the federal government, and I have been promoting this here in Pennsylvania with our own effort, Restore Pennsylvania. But broadband access is really important in so many different ways, from economic development to education to agriculture to health, even to transportation. We need to do that. And I think we need to make sure that post-secondary education is affordable and accessible, which is, again, there are a whole host of things. So all the things that you mentioned and more are really important. And I think the state and now the federal government, with the big infusion that the Biden administration is providing to all states and municipalities, I think is really important in furthering the goal of economic development, especially when it comes to small businesses.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that detailed response. And we were chatting a few minutes before your remarks about a program that the number of centers in the Pennsylvania SBDC network were involved in 2013 and 14. It was called the Self-Employment Assistance Program, and the basis of it was it allowed individuals who are on unemployment to be certified by labor and industry to work on their business plan, to take some proactive planning steps toward starting a business without the fear of losing their unemployment compensation. And unfortunately, prior predecessor had stopped that program shortly after he took office. But we wondered if what your thoughts are in terms of possibly trying to resurrect that program again, since the federal legislation is still in place and we have programming that we could support that effort to help these nascent entrepreneurs, get their business plans ready to launch, and especially since we're seeing a major influx of what we typically refer to as necessity entrepreneurs, maybe individuals who, through no fault of their own, are facing unemployment and recognize they need to create their own sort of job, or they may be in the creative arts and just wanting to start their kind of gig business to get some side money going and to try and see what they can do during this period of time. Just wondered what your thoughts were in terms of seeing what we could do to resurrect that program.
Yeah, that's a great. You and I had a good conversation about this, and I think this whole thing started back in the 90s, and I imagine my predecessor dropped it because there didn't seem to be a lot of activity in it. And one of the things was that back when it started, the gig economy really hadn't started. We hadn't gone through a pandemic. And the world has changed pretty dramatically. So what maybe was the case back in 2014, 2015 is not the case anymore today. And we really ought to take a look at that. And the idea is a good one. And that is, if you're facing unemployment and you're looking to get unemployment compensation, you shouldn't be penalized from just simply because maybe your choice of a route to gaining employment is to start your own business. So I think it's a good question, good point, and I'll certainly I'm going to take a look at it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, thank you, Governor. And the Pennsylvania SBDC, we will be entering our 4-year strategic planning cycle this fall, which is timely because we recognize that we had to pivot very quickly, and with the pandemic created new services that we needed to ramp up. We created 9 centers of excellence in a very short period of time, in a couple of months, to address things like helping our small businesses with transitioning to e-commerce platforms, with SEO reports, with healthy work, helping our small businesses understand what they can do to create healthy workplaces. And then we had some industry sector specific centers of excellence around agriculture, food processing, our Latino Business Resource Center outreach, created a number of programs in bilingual. But I wondered if you can share, since you're a business owner yourself and have that background and talk to many businesses, what have you uncovered any themes or gaps in services that you think we should be looking at as a network to help businesses as we plan for the next 4 years?
Well, I think three things. First thing is you mentioned networking. The one of the things that I always found useful in my business was actually asking questions. I had 2 great business partners who are also members of my family, and we spent a lot of time actually working together and talking through problems. And it seems maybe a small beer, but actually having a forum for interacting and talking to others who are going through many of the same challenges is really important. So just that is important. The second thing is just what we talked about a moment ago, the specific challenges of a pandemic. People I think are really need places like you to be able to get access to technical information. The world is changing, and we've seen a lot of changes, not just because of the crisis, but telework is a lot more important. Everybody, even I, an old man, I know what Zoom is and even how to use it. So there are a lot of things that we're looking at the state in terms of how businesses should change, and I think that requires some guidance, some counseling, and all the things that you provide. And then finally, you mentioned the gig economy. This is changing the way people think about the world of work in so many ways. And I don't know how that's going to affect a small business person, an entrepreneur who's starting out. What are the ranges of options right now that weren't there when I was managing my True Value hardware store? So these are all kinds of things. The technology is different, the economy is different, the world is different, and all those things. I think as you sit down and think about what role you play, I think it's different, but it's every bit, if not more, important than ever was before.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, sharing that insight. And one of the, you're spot on, because we just did a survey of our established business clients, and they are, mentioning the need to network, to find that they need help finding new customers and all those things you just mentioned. So it's good to hear you reinforcing that. And along those same lines, I've had a couple of conversations since the pandemic with my colleagues in the Florida SBDC, and of course they're I guess probably have more disasters than we're used to having up here in Pennsylvania. But their program, their network, was designated by the state as kind of the small business outreach disaster program when disasters do hit. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts, because I think we demonstrated the ability to ramp up our communication and outreach to all small businesses in the Commonwealth. What we could do to become designated kind of officially as the organization, for disaster assistance with our small business community.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I don't know the answer to that specifically, how you do that, especially with the different agencies. I'll look into that. But I think whatever the specifics are, in general, I think all of us now realize how important you are, organizations like you are, in terms of channels. One of the problems with the first CARES Act round that came out of Washington back in the spring was that it was hard to get money, well-intentioned, from the big piles where it was in Washington to the hands of especially small business owners and disadvantaged businesses. And so organizations like yours, like community development financial institutions, became really important in a way they really weren't before. And maybe Florida understands that in a way that we don't, because they have gone through disasters. And so I think we at the state have learned lessons of the need to have organizations to basically serve as channels of communication and for funding. When the state or the federal government wants to actually do the right thing and provide support, financial support, we need channels. We need partners in terms of making sure those monies get into the right hands. So that's something that maybe Florida, because of the disasters. Well, by the way, and I'm not speaking to selling here, I am selling actually Pennsylvania, but when I'm with colleagues from Florida or Texas, the Gulf states, where they do face things like hurricanes and heavy winds and storms and things like that, I remind them that we don't, you might not like certain things about Pennsylvania, but we don't have those storms. They don't come in and destroy your businesses like they do with great regularity in those states. So I never lose an opportunity to sell. But I think you're right, from a disaster point of view. They have learned things in terms of how to get funding to help recover from disasters into the hands of businesses that need it in a much more efficient manner than maybe we have, because we haven't faced that like they have.
Right. Okay, Governor. Well, that concludes our questions for today. And again, we want to thank you for your leadership and helping all of our Commonwealth citizens weather through the pandemic and start to turn the corner here with the vaccinations and everything. And again, just thank you for your time spending with us, and hopefully you'll call on us again and come to rely on us as that outreach program. And again, thank you for your ongoing support with the budget requests. So
thank you, Ernie, and thank you again for having me here.
So my colleagues in the network, we're going to take a 5-minute pause, and we're going to rejoin on another link, and Steve DeTore, Deputy Secretary, will be joining us, as well as Dave Patty from our Pennsylvania Advisory Board. So we'll see you in about 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us for this segment, and see you soon. Bye-bye.